Hey guys, it's Justin again with another video. This video is going to be about GBWC 2019 and how I think in North America it's going to be a disaster. So, I got home a couple hours ago and I jumped on my Instagram and I started looking through posts and through stories and things like that. And I saw a lot of posts about GBWC being a joke and people that seemed to be kind of riled up about GBWC. And so I jumped on Facebook and I saw more of the same. And I was kind of confused because normally people are really excited about GBWC. And you see all these kinds of posts after GBWC. It's not something I've normally seen before GBWC. So I thought to myself, it can't be that bad, right? Wrong. It's definitely that bad. So before I jump into, GBWC this year, let's talk about GBWC last year. So for those of you, I've never attended a GBWC event, ever. All I know about what happened last year is secondhand accounts from multiple people who have told me how the event went down and the way things were. There's a lot of consistency in that, so I'm only speaking consistencies to you. I have no interest in telling you things that I heard from one person that don't line up with things that somebody else said. I just want to tell you guys what I perceive to be fact. I was told that the event at GBWC 2018 in New York, Anime NYC, I've heard that it was insanely crowded. I heard that there was a ton of models on display. They had a hard time finding places to put all the models, which to me sounds like a good problem to have when you are organizing a competition for your brand. GBWC is a Bandai exclusive event. You don't enter non-Bandai kits into it, so the fact that you were allocated this much space and you had a hard time displaying everything is a good thing, in my eyes. I don't understand how that is a bad thing. I imagine that being that stacked up with models, though, things are going to get a little crazy. But it seems like Bluefin and Bandai were not prepared for this at all, which is really strange to me because it seems like every year that the GBWC happens in America, the winner or the representative from America comes from New York Comic Con. So you would think that this event would be particularly well staffed. I also tend to see a lot of turnout in California. You see a lot of people posting from California, and there's a lot of kits that get put on the table. And, I didn't hear anything bad about anything that happened in California, but New York, the entire GBWC was orchestrated by one person, from my understanding. So the biggest problem I have with a single judge is, take myself and my friend Tim, Child of Mecha, for example. We both build Gundams and we both do our thing, but we both have very different preferences when it comes to style and the way these models look and what we think is good looking and not good looking. Me and Tim butt heads a lot on this one. I'm really big into when the mini painters do the non-metal metallics on their builds. I really appreciate that level of craftsmanship in the paint. It's just paint work. It's pure, I like shaded builds. I like subtle modifications. I really like some of the creative stuff. I like to see a story told. I like to see a lot of different things. And Tim leans a little bit more towards the technical side of things. Tim likes to see mechanical hatches. He likes to see real life interpretations translated onto these models. He likes to see super clean paint. He wants a very well crafted model. And that's not to say that there's not bleed over between those things. Tim and I both like different kinds of models. I like all kinds of models, but the idea I'm trying to tell you guys here is that everybody has a slightly different preference for what style of model that you like to see. And this is where you start to see a problem. is when you have a single judge, you have already injected bias into your competition. You need to have multiple judges to eliminate that bias so that everybody can meet somewhere in the middle and come to a conclusion where everybody's going to be happy. There's a lot of controversy about last year's GBWC in terms of our representative. I know that his model was shown off at a prior event, and the judge who ended up judging GBWC in North America in New York saw the model and, apparently gushed over it. I don't know whether or not he did, but I do know for a fact that he saw it because they were working together at the event. And he brought that model and it was shown off. And I feel like that sort of gave him a bit of a head start. I don't know for a fact if it did or didn't, but I don't really agree with having your judge do other events and then go on, he can see entries before they even happen. And I don't think that, I think with having one judge, another problem that happened was with the amount of models that were on display, I feel like a lot of models might have been glazed over and not given the fair shot that they deserved. And there's even talks that a few of my friends even were just outright disqualified. And, I don't really agree with that either, because some of these people are people who have regularly attended GBWC and never had a problem, but all of a sudden something is going on and they're being disqualified, and I don't know why. So, GBWC being a competition, you typically have a score sheet associated with a modeling competition. I mean, it only makes sense. You can't just say, oh, that's the best model, and not really give a reason why. And to my understanding, the GBWC score sheet is broken down into 3 categories. The 3 categories being craftsmanship, paint, and the idea. Now, obviously, craftsmanship is going to translate into how well your model's built, how well you filed down gate marks and things of that nature, how you handled seam lines, and any additional details that you put into the model kit, how cleanly you did those modifications, things like that. Paint, again, self-explanatory, how much paint you used and how evenly you covered your surfaces. You didn't chip this corner and just forget about it. You don't have orange peel all over the place, things like that. Self-explanatory. The weird one for me, and this is where I start to lose a little bit of faith in the GBWC scoring system, is the idea category. What makes an idea worth more points than another idea? How is that judged? That's what I want to know. I feel like it really handicaps people who might not make a base for their model. If you don't build, if you don't at least put it on a flight stand and paint that flight stand, because that's part of your model, it needs to be painted. But if you just put your kit on the table, you're already losing points because you don't have an idea. I mean, if you could paint a model to look like it is made of molten lava, that's your concept, that's your idea. And you kit bash a model and you put it together and you do all this crazy stuff and you paint it to look like lava. Your idea is come to life. You've done it perfectly. You've perfectly replicated the look of molten lava. But you're not going to score as high as the guy who put his model kit down next to you and he's got 2 or 3 mobile suits and a diorama fighting, because that idea is, I don't understand the idea category. I feel like, to me, it seems like the idea category exists solely for shelf presence, and that's what it should be called, is like presence or something like that. I feel like when you've maxed on the other 2 categories, the model that catches your eye at a glance is going to score higher in the idea category than one that isn't based, that isn't, it doesn't tell a story per se. But even the 2 that are, that come with a story, I don't see how you can judge that on a numerical value. It seems like if you want to take place in GBWC and you want to do well, you need either a very well crafted model that catches an eye, or you need to build a diorama to do that. Because I don't think you're going to do well in the idea category if something next to your model is more impressive. Now, there's obviously more things that go into that than what I know. Like I said, I've never been to a GBWC. I've never competed. So there's likely more that goes into that category than I know, but that's just the way that I understand it with the knowledge that I have now. It seems to me that this is the weighted crutch for the GBWC, though, because, again, like I said, this is a Bandai-only event. You only use Bandai models. You only use models that are produced by Bandai. It's a marketing event for Bandai. You're using your model to market Gunpla to people around the world on a global level. And I think that more creative entries do better because they catch that eye. You know, if you have an entry that is built with panel lines and all this crazy detail and stuff like that, it might catch the eye of somebody who knows what it is and goes, wow, that looks phenomenal. But if you build something that's completely abstract, it catches the eye of somebody who's not interested or who might not be interested in this hobby, and it pulls more people in. So from a business perspective, I understand why those entries would do better in this type of competition. Bandai puts a lot of money into marketing the GBWC, and they want to be able to put these large-scale models on magazine covers and on posters and YouTube videos, and they want to catch people's eyes. I get it. But it's super, super vague, and I think that there needs to be more clarification on how that rule or how that particular category of judging breaks down. I feel like it would be incredibly helpful if we knew what exactly that meant, because just saying idea doesn't really mean anything. And on the flip side of that, it would be just as easy for somebody to come up with just a random arbitrary reason why their model kit is the way that it is anyway, just to fit within those parameters. It seems like a really strange third category. Now, there was a lot of controversy last year with the United States entry, and I'm not trying to bring any of that back up. I'm not trying to instigate that. I'm just using it as a talking point for what happened. So we had one judge in New York. He picked what he knew. He picked what he liked. And I feel that maybe he didn't judge the event properly because he just saw something that caught his eye. That's the model that was chosen from that event, and then that was pulled in with all the other entries from the other events in the United States, as well as the online entries, and then those were all judged. Now, I can only assume that Bandai gets more photos than we are of these model kits in their judging criteria and all that. But I know that if you go to the GBWC website right now and you look at the U.S. finalists, you get 3 pictures. There's one picture of each finalist. And it's a pretty small picture. You don't get to see a lot. And when you look at first, second, and third, at a glance, it's very easy to tell why the model that went to Japan. Because you can't get in close, you can't look at it, you can't tell if there's any problems with it. You just see this towering behemoth, and then you see 2 much smaller builds. And it's, again, from that perspective, it's very easy to see why that model went to Japan. It might not have been up to the same level of craftsmanship or paintwork as those other models, but it has a much more intimidating shelf presence. And I think that's what pushed that model to Japan. Again, I'm not trying to reignite any kind of drama. I'm not trying to take stabs at anybody. I'm looking at these models as objectively as I know how to. And again, on the subject of objectivity, this year, as far as I know, we performed as a country the worst we have in as long as I've been paying attention to GBWC. I think a large portion of the community kind of really took a step back, and we were just kind of like, wow, like that's what the world sees us as now. Because we placed at the bottom of the pool, and if you want to really get technical with it in numbers, we placed in the middle of the children's category, which is insane. I don't think that's ever happened before. The margin between where we were and what was above us was a very wide margin. So I feel that something went wrong, and that's why I feel that the categories were judged the way that they were, and why I feel like this is what happened. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward now to today. It is Wednesday. This year's GBWC, Bluefin and Bandai should logically be doubling down on their judging. They should properly staff these events. They should make sure that there's plenty of room for people who are bringing their models to bring them to show off. Maybe we're even getting to the point where we should start maybe doing a GBWC at its own kind of event. Maybe not to the level of like Singapore and some of these other countries over in Asia that have entire Gundam Central events, but maybe tie it to something not so big as Anime NYC or New York Comic Con, but something a little smaller that everybody can get their stuff on display and shown within the convention. But that's not what they've done. They actually, I can't blame Bluefin alone here. This has probably got a lot to do with Bandai. And I wonder if the way that we were scored last year had any impact on the way that they feel that our craftsmanship or our overall presentation is as a collective, as the entire country. But, again, like I said, I don't blame Bluefin entirely for this, but they are just as much to blame. So instead of staffing these events properly, instead of making sure that we get properly judged events, instead of taking the blame and acknowledging that they screwed up last year, and there's always a big GBWC debacle. I'm not just trying to point at last year, but instead of trying to right the wrongs, they've opted for the hands-off approach. So instead of competing in GBWC like you normally would, where you would pre-register for the event, bring your model kit, display it, and then be judged, you pre-register for a different event, you upload your photos online, and then the community is going to judge you. And then the top 10 entrants get to take their models to that event. I know a lot of people that solely go to these events for the GBWC. I don't understand why this is a thing. The idea of this sounds fine for a moment. If you just stop and hear it, you're like, okay, yeah, I get that. That makes sense. But if you stop and think about it for a minute, when's the last time that a community vote system has worked out 100% fairly for anybody? It really doesn't at all, and that's with good reason. I understand at surface level the intention here, but that's not what's going to happen. With the growth of this hobby, there's a really rapid increase in the number of personalities associated with this hobby. You've got a lot of influencer types. You have a lot of big name reviewers. You have a lot of content creators, like myself included, that people really tend to lean towards, and they favor their opinions most times, and I feel like that creates a large amount of bias. I posted about it on my personal Facebook page, and people were already joking, like, hey, I'll sell you my Instagram followers' votes. That's what's going to happen. All it takes is one internet personality to go, hey, that model looks awesome, and everybody's going to run and vote for it. And I don't think that it's always going to be 100% like that, but this is basically going to turn into an online clout competition or an online popularity contest. It's going to become less about the models and more about the personality behind the models. And I don't think that either one of those things have anything to do with one another in a competitive scenario for any reason. it's gonna boil down to the greater your following, the greater your success, or the bigger your model and the more eye catching it is at a glance. The more likely you are to succeed. And if you have both, you're going to do incredibly well in GBWC America. But if you don't, you're going to get swept under the rug. It's no longer a competition about skill. It's no longer a competition about what's objectively better. It's going to become a competition of, well, this is my friend, so I'm going to vote for them. And I don't want that. I don't want people to vote for me because of who I am. I want people to vote for me on the quality of my work. I want people to vote for somebody else on the quality of their work. I don't want you to choose who you like. I want you to choose what model looks the best. To me, this is an incredibly lazy way to handle an event. It's a super hands-off approach to a competition, and it's cheaping out. They mentioned in their video that a big thing was entry badges. You get a little badge that says GBWC event or whatever and the year on it. And if that's the problem, why don't you make it so the first 20 people that show up get the badge? Or make it so at the live event, anybody can bring their model and display it. Anybody can bring their model and compete, but only the people that are voted for by the community there, the attendees at the convention itself, can write off a thing, and they do a quick tally, and they vote for the one they like. And those people, the top 10 of those people, get badges. If it's all about entry badges, then fix the entry badge system. Don't restructure the way that the competition happens, because all you're doing is you're cutting off people who are interested in your models. If you have a large display of model kits at these conventions, people are going to come up, they're going to be interested because it's massive. There's hundreds of these things all over the place. People who don't know what this is are going to stumble in and go, wow, this is amazing. People built and painted all of these. And they might identify little pieces and go, oh, wow, this one looks kind of like this one, but it's like a totally different color and it looks completely different. Or maybe they see something that you can't buy and that inspires them to create something themselves. The whole point of these live events is supposed to be to build the community and push this hobby to the next level. If you limit how many people can come to these events, you're going to cut the community off. More people are going to stop coming to GBWC altogether, because they might not think they have the chance to even enter. You know what I mean? Like, you're really isolating your competition here. I want to believe that at a heart's, at your surface level, you guys think that you're doing the right thing, but I don't see it that way. I think that the way that GBWC in America is being handled this year is a lose-lose for everybody. Everybody. If you accept this as what GBWC is going to be, then you're going to have to play the popularity game, potentially. I don't know that there's a way to circumvent, people botting likes and people botting votes, or people swaying other people to vote. It's probably not likely that there is a way to do that, but this is the pessimist in me saying that I think that that's what's going to happen. So you either play that game or you don't compete at all, and we get another debacle like last year where a less than stellar entry comes through because nobody's competing. It's really a lose-lose. You don't get to go and do that live competition on an equal level. If you watch the Bluefin video, it's quite apparent that Bluefin watches these videos. They watch the community. They know that we are very vocal about this kind of stuff. They're watching, and this is their opportunity to try and make good on this. I haven't seen not one, I haven't checked my phone in like 20 minutes, but I have not seen a single good thing about this said from anybody. Nobody. Even people that don't compete this is hilarious to them. It's a joke. So, Bandai, if you're listening, Bluefin, if you're listening, please reconsider this. This is insane. I cannot believe that somebody suggested this, and you guys are just like, yeah, That's what we're gonna do. You're really, it's a slap in the face to anybody who thinks that GBWC is or anybody that takes GBWC seriously. Anybody who builds one model a year exclusively for this event has just been wronged by you. I don't understand. So please, guys, I've not seen anything in favor of this. I don't see anybody being a fan of this. I don't see this planning out well at all. I think that you need to update clarity on your judging. Think you need to double down on judges. You need to train them properly on how to judge, and you need to just muscle up and judge these events properly. I don't know what goes into planning and coordinating an event. I'm sure that it costs lots of money, but I'm sure that you stand to gain more money by putting more models on tables than you do by isolating your community. So that's all I got to say about it. I think that this year is going to be a complete disaster if Bluefin continues on the way that they're going. If you guys like this video, please give me a like, and don't you dare subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try something new here. I want you guys to go and subscribe to somebody else, like my friend Nozaku Boy. He's a fantastic modeler. He's wonderful. He's talented. He's a great guy. Go give him some love, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.